Okay, so today we're going to talk about air conditioning. It's a hotly debated topic, and it's one of the quirks that people point out quite frequently with the INEOS Grenadier. So I thought today we'd take a little drive and we talk a little bit about the AC system and the things that I know about it and some of the things you can do to get it to behave a little more compliantly with what you want it to do. So let's head out. Okay. So as I said, air conditioning. The things that people report quite frequently are that when you want cold, you get hot. When you want hot, you get cold. And the auto setting seems to be a little schizophrenic, to be frank. And it just seems like getting the desired temperature or a friendly temperature is a little bit more than a challenge in the Grenadier. And you know, I've learned to kind of deal with it, and some of the ways that you work with it are in how you set it. Now, if you go online and look at some of the discussions about it, you might find that some people recommend setting all the settings to off before you leave the car, so that when you first come back to the car, it's at a completely off and known state, and then you can turn it back on and you can set it to what you want. But what I've learned is that I don't use the auto mode ever, because that seems to be, it requests things that you don't necessarily want to request, and sometimes it overcompensates by turning the fans on full blast when you don't really need full blast. And if it's blowing the wrong temperature, like if it's a cold day and you want some warm air, or if it's a hot day and you want cold air and it's doing the wrong thing, it gives you, you know, the nth degree of that. So I find that I never use the auto setting ever, and I slowly keep the fan and the temperature setting, which is the center dial, to either to one side or the other. So if you're getting out and it's a cold day, start with it all the way warm, and then just slowly back it down as the warmth comes, because obviously when your car's first turned on, it's the engine's not going to be warm and you're not going to get heat. But if you're trying to get cool air, then you should start with it being all the way cold, and then you slowly back it down as the cold starts to appear. Because if you leave it somewhere in the center, quite frankly, you often get the wrong thing. Like, it is 74 degrees outside and I'm getting heat, and I can see that I'm actually set for a little bit of heat, so that's actually requested. But if I just turn it straight up and down, I'm feeling that I'm still getting heat, and I have to go one or two clicks back to the cold side to get it to start to blow cold. And it'll finally sort of make up its mind that that's what you want, and it will do it. But it's just not instant, and it's not intuitive, and I think that's what drives people a little nutty. It's friendly once you kind of make friends with it. It's going to behave the way it's going to behave, and you're just a passenger on the journey. So I find that if you set it all the way to one direction or all the way to the other direction, you're more likely to start it out down the right track. And you just need to decide when you get in the car, do you need heat? Do you need cool? Because I live in Southern California, and you know, there are still times when I'm a weather wimp, so you know, it can be 68 degrees and it's like, ooh, it's really cold. Where's my heated steering wheel? But you need a little bit of heat because everything's cold that you're sitting around, and then you just want it to back down and not be a lot of hot. Some people report that when they have the vents set a certain way, I have mine set to all three vents, the floor, the console, and the windshield, that they get different kinds of air out of different parts, and that can be frustrating. And that sometimes also happens when you don't fully get the little door that diverts the air to one way or the other, and sometimes you also get a little whistle if it doesn't fully open or close. So you can kind of play around with the air direction a little bit in this mix of trying to find your perfect temperature to get it to blow in the direction that you want. And just know that sometimes if it doesn't completely close the little door that is diverting the air, that you'll sometimes get a whistle. And I haven't had a whistle for weeks. And so I'm not really wanting to mess around with it because it comes back, it comes and goes. But if I turn the fan way up, see, I'm getting a little bit of cool air, which is fine, that's what I want. And I'm not getting any whistle. There's a teensy bit of whistle. But it's not bad. I've heard it worse. And so sometimes you're just kind of fiddling a little bit to get it to behave the way you want it to behave. And no, that's not what you should expect in a car of this caliber, but at the same time, it's not a deal breaker. Don't be put off by it. Just know that, you know, certain things aren't perfection. They're good, but they're not perfection, and you just have to play with it. The only thing that you want to be aware of, and this really happened with the original Grenadiers, and it's probably not a problem nowadays, is that the car shipped over with a bad crimp in the coolant system for the air conditioner, and it allowed the coolant to leak out. And by leaking out, there was no cool ever, no matter how hard it blew. And so that was something that a dealer had to resolve. It happened to mine, but they fixed it before I actually took delivery of it, because the day that I drove it before I picked it up, I noticed the problem, and so I pointed it out to them and they took care of it. And it's been blown cold ever since. So you want to make sure that you don't have that problem, because that's a problem that has to go to the dealer. This fidgety, sometimes cold, sometimes warm, is just sort of an idiosyncratic thing that the Grenadier has. And once you get used to it, you'll figure out what, you know, little routine you have to do to get it to give you the temperature that you want. But it is possible to get the temperature that you want. I sometimes think that the degrees of coolness, like now it's starting to get a little too cool. I'm going to back it off by one little click so it's pointing straight up and down. And as the car warms up, because we just left home, it starts to overcool, or it starts to overheat, and then you want to just adjust it a little bit. And you would think that the auto setting would take care of that, but I think the auto setting just makes it worse. If I turn auto on, it actually just turned everything off. It slowed the fan way down. Still blowing. But on super hot days, you know, if you live in an extreme climate, I think you're going to have a little more of a challenge than if you're in a temperate climate. But I still think you can work with it. Just know that it requires a little bit of finessing, and you'll be fine. Because it's got its way about things. It's moody sometimes. And sometimes you think you get out of the car after you had it set just perfect, you go and shop or run an errand, and you come back to the car and it's behaving differently than as you left it. And then you're back in that scenario of setting things and ticking things up just a little bit to get it to the right temperature. So it's just something that takes a little effort, and it's not automatic like some more modern cars will behave, and that's okay. It's, you know, we love our Grenadiers, but it's just one of those things that's, you know, some people say, I could never live with a car that does that. And if that's the reason that you're not buying a Grenadier, then that's not the reason to buy a Grenadier either. It just, you know, people buy the Grenadier for a lot of reasons, but they don't normally chuck them out just because the air conditioner's funky, and because it works. It doesn't not work. It just behaves in ways that, you know, sometimes are not expected. And I haven't heard that there's any difference in the newest upcoming models. I'm sure that that's something that, you know, my dealer wishes they would improve upon, but I don't know if, you know, the changes are easy or have to be redesigned, or if it's the inherent system that they use. Don't know the answer to that. So I don't think it's a reason for you to stand back from ordering a Grenadier. If you're really curious about it, you can go and experience one. Make sure you take a test drive. That's the thing. Nowadays, people have the luxury of being able to go and test drive one. Yes, you might not live near a dealer, but you're not buying it off of a picture like the people did back in 2024 that just waited and had all they had were the words of the company saying this is what it's going to be like, this is what it's going to look like. I think I got to drive in a prototype for about 10 minutes in some desert remote area, and it was a prototype. That's all I saw of the Grenadier before the day that mine just appeared. So nowadays you have the luxury of being able to go and test drive one, and you can try this, and the dealer will probably give you pointers as well as to how you can adjust it up or down, because it's really a matter of fan is one setting, and then the temperature setting is the one that you're going to be playing with the most. And again, using the auto setting sometimes causes more grief than good, especially when the weather differences are extreme. Like if you get into a really hot car or you get into a really cold car, it's just going to turn it on to level 4 and be very loud because it moves a lot of air, and it moves a lot of air whether or not the temperature coming out is the right temperature or not. So just something to note. Other than that, it works fine. There is a button to disengage the AC compressor. I never touch it because I normally just leave things as they are. If you have certain learnings of how you can get the correct temperature from your Grenadier, post a comment and let others know what you've learned, because I read some very mysterious explanations online from people that say, this is how I get it to work. I turn everything off, I turn the car off, I turn it on, I turn the car on, and everybody seems to find something that works for them, whether it's superstition or it's just the pattern and the order in which things are done that makes a difference. Just know that the air conditioning compressor comes on as soon as the car turns on, but if it's heat that's needed, the car actually has to warm up a little bit before it's going to produce any heat in the passenger cabin. So other than that, things are going great with the Grenadier. I don't drive a lot these days, and so I get out a little infrequently, but leave a comment, let me know what you'd like to learn about, because the news from INEOS is really few and far between. It's interesting. I look for press releases, I look for updates, I'm looking for advertising. It seems like most of the advertising they're doing is on Instagram and on, TikTok, LinkedIn. They're all those little, 2-second, 30-second ads where people are driving around, or they've got a driving event. They're asking people their opinions, but I don't see any mass market advertising. But then again, I tend to be a streaming TV watcher where I try to avoid the mass market advertising. So I may just not know where the ads are being shown. So anyway, if you know anything, please share. Everybody enjoys learning from others, and this is a place that I hope to create that allows people to do that. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.